If it's nerdy, we're into it.
Gaming, movies, television, wrestling, comics, whatever. We are Kyle Eckert and Chris Heck, two lifelong friends with a passion for the world of geekery.
And this is the GeeK KetchUp Podcast.
What's good, GeeK KetchUp listeners? You are listening to Season 2, Chapter 36. Today, we're excited to have our good friend and tattoo artist Alex Santaloci on the show to discuss the season wrap-up of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. The season was jam-packed with twists and big reveals, and we can't wait to hear what Alex has to say.
Welcome back, GeeK KetchUp family. As Kyle said in the intro, we are excited to be talking about the entire first season of The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we'll jump into that here in a few minutes. But before we do, we have to take a few minutes to introduce you to a very special guest that is making their debut on the show today. Alex is an absolutely amazing tattoo artist here in Charlotte and is the owner of Iron Ghost Tattoos. And over the last 4 to 5 years, Kyle and I have had the chance to get to know her. And she has spent countless hours zapping geekery sleeves onto our arms. So she's become a great friend of ours and the GeeK KetchUp podcast. In fact, Alex is so OG with our show that she is the one who crafted our awesome logo with Kyle and I as our favorite X-Men. And you may actually be our original fan. I'm not sure, but I think it's arguable.
I mean, I'm definitely, OG in that way. My name's Alex. I'm a tattoo artist here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am right now. Been into nerdy stuff my whole life. Was super pumped when, you said you were starting up a podcast and everything. I tattoo at Iron Ghost, which is a shop I own. You can find us at Iron Ghost Tattoo on Instagram or www.ironghosttattoo.com. And then I'm on Instagram as Alex Tattoos NC. And I just love that both you guys have let me put so much nerdy stuff on you. And it's, all my favorite stuff.
Well, you do the best work. Definitely go check out all of the accounts, all sorts of styles, tons of geekery, tons of food. But pretty much anything in between. You never cease to amaze me with the fact that you can pretty much do anything in tattoo form. And of course, before we go too far here, I can't forget Kyle, who, fun fact, since we're talking about tattoos, he has a Winter Soldier tattoo that was done by Alex.
That was my first Winter Soldier tattoo I ever did, too.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah. It is in the shape of a Funko Pop face, so it's a little cutesy. But I didn't realize it was your first Winter Soldier one. And you've done a few of those.
I have done a few since, and I have a Winter Soldier Thick Boy coming up. So I'm super pumped on that. I have a client, and we've done a bunch of or Thick Boy or pinup guys on her leg, and they're all greasy boys. So we have Loki and Kylo Ren, and now we're going to do the Winter Soldier next, which I'm super stoked about.
That'll be sweet.
Yeah, that is going to be sweet. That sounds awesome.
So before I forget, just if you don't know me yet, of course, I am Chris Heck. And so now that we've got everyone established, let's jump in and have some fun here. So Alex, as you know, we don't let anybody come on our show without talking about what you've been geeking out on lately. It can be that you're just glued to a comic book or a TV show. I know with you work on a lot of art. So what have you been geeking out on lately?
Art a lot, because just with work and everything. Obviously been watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier and just consuming everything I can about that. A lot of YouTube videos. I also just picked up a comic by Dave Ebersol. It's called Dash, and it's like a gay private eye. And it's an independent guy. I have it because I was going to forget the name of it. So that just came a couple days ago. I haven't gotten to get too far into it, but I just found that on Instagram. Yeah, I was just like, oh, shit, that's some good representation and stuff. So that's what I'm going to be reading next for sure.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, is it like a creator-published comic?
That's a great question. It is Northwest Press. Yeah, I think it's print on demand.
Nice.
But it's pretty big. The art was pretty
wow.
good too. I know you guys can't see it out and if you're just listening to the podcast, but
That's like a full trade there.
yeah, it's super like that, but it's it's Dave Ebersol and Delia Gable
Nice.
Awesome.
who did it. So I'll let you know how it is.
Hey, can't go wrong with a good private eye mystery type story.
Right? Yeah, and it's noir, so gotta love it.
Even better, yeah. Well, very cool. Well, you mentioned Falcon and Winter Soldier, and of course, that is what we are here to talk about. It was a packed 6 episodes, and so, we may not go through every single detail, but we are going to walk through it here and share our thoughts. So before we jump in, just a little bit of background, right? The Falcon and Winter Soldier debuted on Disney Plus on March 19th, and it ran for 6 episodes, pretty much as a mini-series through April 23rd. And at a high level, the show pretty much followed Sam Wilson, or the Falcon, and Bucky Barnes, also known as the Winter Soldier, during a time shortly after the events of Avengers Endgame, where Steve Rogers is now gone, half the planet's population has been suddenly returned from the blip after 5 years. And as I said, not going to hit every detail here, but if you have not watched the show or you have not finished the season, consider this your spoiler warning because we will not be holding back. So with episode 1, it really jumped in right away and opened up with Sam on an international mission to rescue a military hostage in what turned out to be a pretty intense dogfight, or kind of a high-speed chase between the Falcon and multiple helicopters that really opened up the series and set the tone. From there, we also got our first introduction to how Bucky's life is going during his time working with a therapist, his struggles to make amends for his past, and even some of the glimpses of his deeds as the Winter Soldier, which were pretty cool. And then really what everybody was wondering about, right? We get our eyes on Captain Shield for the first time in a while, as Sam turned it over to the government. And then it ultimately wrapped up with that introduction of John Walker as the new Captain America. So I wanted to really jump in here and find out, after all the wait, all the hype, especially with the two of you being huge Winter Soldier fans, big Captain America fans and all that, what did you think of this pilot episode, and did it live up to the hype that was built for the show?
I was really into it. Like, going back and watching now that I've all seen them and everything, like, when I went to rewatch them today, I didn't really pay attention, and it was a great introduction to it, but I think on the rewatch, it's not something I'll hit again. Just because, like, it was great. I love that we got to catch up with everybody, and I really like that they had them separated for all of it, because you did get that really, like, when they come together in the second episode, you get that, like, yay, they're back kind of thing.
Right.
But the dogfight was crazy, and I like that they just hit that action just straight away to let you know, like, what the whole show is going to be about.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That the opening scene hit so hard, and I love that they went right back to Batroc and George St. Pierre, like that, who's the very first villain that Captain America fought in Winter Soldier, and they just hit that tone where this is what this story is going to be. It's going to be a continuation of Cap's trilogy, and it's going to be high action and with some political thrillerness and mixed in with the home life. And kind of adjusting back to normal society, which we didn't get too much out of in Cap's story, but we got a little bit, him trying to find his way after being frozen for so long. I agree. I think in the long term, it may be something you go back and watch individual clips on, like, YouTube. Right there in the beginning, the hype level was just through the roof with the dogfight and the wings and the squirrel suit. Like, it set the tone perfectly that this is going to be a high action type show and get things rolling. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, and there was some really cool moments in that scene that I thought were kind of original. I mean, we've seen Falcon and what he can do with the wingsuit and everything, throughout a number of movies now, but with this focus on him, I thought they kind of went next level with the use of Red Wing, the AI drone, and, when he was flying through the helicopter to grab people out of them and just really getting close up between just a man flying on a suit and these, like, Hind Russian military helicopters with missiles. I mean, it really elevated him even further because, unfortunately, just the nature of the beast, right? You know, with the movies and the emphasis on Captain and Tony and everybody else. I mean, you only get so much of the side characters. So I thought that was a really cool way to elevate him and his abilities right off the bat. But I did think it was kind of an interesting turn that, and this is, I thought, was a theme for me throughout the whole show, but every episode was almost like the tale of two stories. You know, you mentioned the home life, but it's like when you got the action, it was like really intense, high tilt, high energy action. And then it would just slow way, way down. And you would get that interpersonal, and it worked. But as I mentioned when we first talked about it, I thought it kind of took my hype level down just a touch when I was watching it week to week. And then when I went back and watched it a second time, I thought it fit together a little better. I don't know if either of you noticed that or had any thoughts there, but I thought it was just a little bit of a tempo roller coaster.
Absolutely. There was definitely some episodes where, like, I think the really good example is episode 4 to 5, where like the beginning of 5 really felt like the end of 4.
Right.
And it drops right off, like drops. And it's great because they build it back up with the montages and stuff. But like, I feel like being a departure from where 4 was like build, and then they had that big like Civil War-esque fight, and then for it to drop off like that was definitely jarring, just because the whole series, it kind of felt like it was building and building and building and building, and then it was just kind of like a premature thing. But watching it all together, of course, is better because you know that episode 6 is just like there. But I totally agree with what you're saying about like the feel and the highs and lows and everything and the pacing.
Yeah, it was weird because I mean, I went back and forth. Right, it made sense as a miniseries. You know, if you look at it as a whole, it was like a great one shot for this character and pushing the Legend of Captain America, I guess, you know, forward in the MCU. But I got this sense, like, especially when you're talking about like later on in the season 4 to 5, it just kept striking me. I was like, this show really needed like 2 to 4 more episodes.
Totally agree. Or like 25, whatever. 78 more episodes, forever episodes. No, absolutely. Yeah, I know there's been rumors of a season 2. I'm totally for it. Probably won't happen because I'm into it.
See, I think maybe the last episode, I don't know if I'd want like 3 to 4. I think I'd want 1. And you stretch the finale into 2 episodes, or maybe like, yeah, I'd say another hour or so. But I also agree with you, Alex, that episode 5, it's a hype. They're building, and then it's almost like, oh, we forgot to go back and finish the Louisiana story.
Right.
Like, let's go back. And so,
what happened to the boat?
Yeah, everything slows down, and yeah, they montage the fix them. I think of the end of Red Dead 2, where they're building the house.
Yeah.
And the montage and the songs playing in the background, and they're fixing the boat and trying it out and this and that. But I don't know if I could have taken like 4 or 5 unless they were going to start introducing other characters or taking in other directions, mainly thinking like Sharon with the power broker deal.
Sure.
Like, explore that a little more and maybe get another couple episodes. But
go to the moon.
Given the stories that they were telling us, I don't know if I would want 4 or 5. And that's really hard for me to say that I want less Falcon Winter Soldier.
I know,
but
like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Stretch the last episode out a little bit.
Yeah, it gave me this feeling like this would have been a good movie.
I was thinking that today.
And it doesn't always happen this way, but it just seemed like, okay, like this could have been a movie instead of a show, and then they cut it apart to give us episodes. And it just felt like it was in this middle ground. Like it needed either more time or more condensing.
And I think a lot of that may have to do with the fact that they had to cut out that huge pandemic plot thing that they cut out for COVID.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because they had this whole other thing. And you can kind of tell in like episode 3 is Madripoor, I think.
Yep.
And there's some weird voiceover stuff where they talk about, where he's talking about like Mama Danya or whatever, where it's like alluding to tuberculosis, where they may have thought that was actually part of this pandemic subplot that was cut for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that might have had to do with some of the jumping and some of the weird pacing decisions or whatever, or maybe even the length of the series. I don't know how long it was supposed to be originally.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe they recorded a bunch else and then kind of did like a Snyder Cut situation. Joss Whedon came in and just trimmed it up.
Yeah. Trimmed it up. Yeah, trimmed it up by making it 2 hours longer somehow.
Right. No, not my best analogy.
It's a pretty good one.
So really, we go through all of that, and I thought that I would see what you all thought about the Winter Soldier, because there was a lot going on with Sam, but we get this good insight into Bucky as Alex shows us her custom Winter Soldier mug. That was awesome. But yeah, so we get these really good insights into Bucky and where he's at and how he's struggling, but also some glimpses into his time as the Winter Soldier that we have not seen before. So I imagine you all geeked out pretty hard being such big Bucky Barnes fans.
So hard. Yeah, that's what, when I say 78 episodes, just like 78 episodes of him murdering people would be chef's kiss, super tight. No, but I love that they brought that back. And just because I think you needed the reminder of how brutal he was, because he is so sympathetic the entire time, just to get 'cause that's the first episode, right? That they do. Okay, so I would probably rewatch the first episode a bunch of times in that case. He's got the wig on, so I love that they made that choice to do that right away and have it be super brutal and have him not spare that guy. And yeah, I love everything about what they did with this character almost.
Well, I think, definitely. I think it was the very first time you see him.
Yeah, right?
It's an immediate cut. You don't see modern day Bucky. You see Winter Soldier, and he just... Because you needed that reminder. He's been a good guy for so long. He's been a good guy for probably, maybe it's only 3-4 movies, but it's been 8 years for us, that we've seen him in this light and become accustomed to him being, the vibranium arm instead of the Soviet Union starred arm and things like that, or the Hydra arm. So yeah, to see him one shot kill people and no hesitation kill people is something a little different than what we've seen in a while, and to have that reminder was super cool. And I'm totally with you, Alex. If you could give me more time, more of those secret agent missions, I think that would be really cool. Especially they talk about it in the second episode with Isaiah. I want that whole fight scene.
Right? Yeah, they could have done the whole thing. That's where I'm kind of holding out, where they'll I'm hoping for a flashback cameo in Black Widow. Fingers crossed. I want to see that. That's what I've my theory has been the whole time, why they keep pushing them back together, is because they had to have one come out before, they had to have Winter Soldier and Falcon come out before Black Widow. It's totally tinfoil hat stuff. I also talk with my hands all the time. Yeah, so I so hope that happens, but I would, again, love to see that whole fight between him and
Isaiah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was not going to remember this name at all.
Well, I think we're in agreement then, because that was another thought I had, was I would take an entire show of just the Winter Soldier escapades. I mean, that would be epic. And we all have talked, Sebastian Stan is so good with that character. And they were just giving, it was just teases. Yeah. That's all they were giving us, for these teases of the real version that we all want to see. So I thought that was really cool. So we get those introductions, and you really kind of think, okay, this is what the show's going to be about. And then, that tease at the end of episode 1, where we see John Walker for the first time, and he comes out as the new official Captain America. How did you react to that?
Just instant hatred. I think, of course. I know Wyatt Russell, and I like Wyatt Russell, and Kurt Russell is one of my favorite people on Earth. But yeah, I was just the ears, and I was you doofy jerk. But I think that's what they wanted. I think that's why they shot it that way. I totally bought into it, that I was you're the worst. I'm here for it. It's great. And then I totally was on whatever ride they wanted to put me on with him. We're oh, maybe he's not that bad. And then, just back and forth.
Yeah.
I was different, and I said that the first time we talked about this last time, but I think part of that is my history with John Walker, and kind of okay, they're going to introduce him, and he's going to be real vicious, and then they'll turn him into U.S. agent, and it'll be okay, and happy, I'll be happy at the end. So when he first got introduced, I'm pretty confident I was the only person on the planet that was yeah, I kind of like it. I liked his suit. I just liked everything about it. Of course, he is a D-bag, and he's meant to be. You're not supposed to like him, and so he played that perfectly. But I did. I might be the only person that considered actually buying the John Walker Captain America pop.
I was wondering who they were making merch for.
Yeah.
But now I know.
Yeah, it's like, because you really think, like, because I thought, man, one, I like the U.S. agent. I like the idea of just being a different styled Captain America, and like the areas of gray. We've talked about like 1,000 times how much I like those characters. Kind of why I like the Winter Soldier so much, who is just operates in this world that is very realistic, where there is no good people, bad people. This isn't some Jedi Sith thing where everything is destined to be one way or the other. Like, you get the good job done, but in a bad way. And I like characters like that. And you could just tell that John Walker was going to be that guy out the gate.
I definitely like him more upon rewatching too. Like when I watched it this time, I was like, I like him more than ever. Because I've rewatched it, once or twice or 4 times or whatever. But yeah, this time I was like, you know what? But still, when he shows up in that first episode, I'm like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Wrong.
Yeah, and I think that it's on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, you just see it, and it's like the suit's a little different, and he's holding Captain's shield, and you're like, that doesn't belong to you, like it just invoked like the same type of emotions for me that you get when you watch wrestling sometimes, and they unveil a new character, a new version of a character, and you're just like, nope, that guy does not have it. And it's all just on looks. He hasn't even done a single suplex in ring. You're just like, fuck this guy, and you're ready to move on,
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, so that it was really an interesting, especially with the 1 episode a week release here. It was an interesting situation too, because that was a big reveal right there at the end, and then you're like, oh, I've got to wait a whole week to see where this goes. But, next up in episode 2, we got a lot of emphasis on the new Star Spangled Man, his background, his partner Battlestar. There was a cool scene where they kind of went back to like his high school on Good Morning America and were introducing him to the world. Like all of that felt so real. Like this is exactly what would happen if this situation happened in real life. The PR campaign would be massive. But from there, we started to see a little bit more about the series antagonists, Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers, who were essentially like a group of refugees that have taken super soldier serum and now are opposing the world's governments, their efforts to resettle millions of all these people who return from the blip. And as you kind of alluded to, here in this, we're still seeing a lot of struggle between Bucky and Sam because they are not really best friends at the moment. They have a lot of strife over Steve and what Sam did with the shield, giving it to the museum and the government. But ultimately, it was really kind of tied together well when Bucky introduces Sam to, and really probably most every Marvel fan out there, especially MCU kind of common fan, to Isaiah Bradley. So this episode really had a lot of reveals and introductions, took some of those characters a little further. But what did you all find most interesting out of this one? Was it the Flag Smashers? Was it Isaiah Bradley? What did you think, Alex?
There was so much in this episode. And I think almost all of the trailer came out of this episode too, which was kind of crazy because as you're watching it, you're like, oh, this is all from one episode. Which made me feel like,
good point.
Yeah, there was so much more left, which I was really excited about because so often with trailers you see everything. But seeing, I was like, it hit everything in it just about, except for the one end scene or whatever. But so that was really exciting. I really liked my favorite part, and this was kind of a trailer reveal, is like he ripped off the sleeve and jumped in the woods and everything. And I like that he doesn't, like Bucky Barnes does not superhero land
right
at all. I think until the very end he gets one, but he does not. He lands on his and this goes back to Civil War. Like I don't think he's ever stuck a superhero landing, which I love because he's such a mess.
Yeah.
But that whole thing and all his interactions with Sam, like that whole sequence with the truck fight and everything, and watching him speed run and getting to watch a little bit more of his like super soldier side was really neat for me.
For sure. Him and Anthony Mackie have great chemistry, I think, together.
The best.
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of like Sebastian Stan and doing the Winter Soldier, and it's kind of funny once you mentioned it. It's got me thinking a little bit that whenever Bucky is presented in Winter Soldier mode, he's very clean and precise. But whenever it's Bucky, it's almost like his brain gets in the way and he's operating at 75%. Like, because he doesn't want to go full tilt because he's afraid he's going to hurt somebody. And, and I think most athletes would probably say this: if you ever try to go 75%, it's usually how you end up hurting yourself because you're trying to stay restrained.
Yeah.
And so, like, I like to think that dynamic was worked into it where, when Bucky is just being James Buchanan Barnes, he's awkward. He can't stick that landing. But when he is the Winter Soldier, you better believe he's going to stick the landing and probably take somebody down, like, as he lands. And it's just going to be perfect.
It's a good point, because I know a lot of times for me as a little bit more casual Winter Soldier fan, I kept watching some of these fight scenes going, what are you doing, Bucky? Like, I was just like, you could just rip this guy's face off.
I thought, I was screaming the whole time. And then I was like, oh, this is on purpose because rule number 2. But yeah, I was like, just rip all of their arms off and beat them to death. Like, I don't understand. But then it's like he's trying to be a better person, which I can't relate to, I guess.
Trying not to hurt people.
Well, they highlighted a few times, and I can't remember exactly where I saw this, but, like, at some point he says that he's right-handed. So anytime you see Bucky using a gun, it's always with his right hand. But when he goes full Winter Soldier, he's ambidextrous, and he can use both hands equally as well.
It was during one of the slower moments when he's helping him fix the boat.
Episode 5.
Yeah, and Sam tries to, like, use a wrench to fix a bolt, and Bucky comes over, but instead of using the arm, he uses his right arm and does it normal, and they're like, why didn't you just use the arm? And he's like, I'm right-handed, man. I don't ever think about it.
Yeah.
Such a good part.
It's just these little hints, right, that go through there. But what did you all think about the Flag Smashers and really their plight and really them as, like, antagonists or the villains of the show here?
I thought they were a red herring pretty much until the end because I was like, they're so sympathetic and they're just kids, and obviously, like, it very much reflects, like, kind of what's going on. So I was like, I felt like I was like, man, they got to be the decoy. Like, John Walker is going to be this, like, crazy, thing. And I thought they were going to really lean into that. And then because I forgot the Power Broker existed until the end of this episode. They were all right. I think they were exactly what they needed to be, I guess. Maybe.
That's fair. They were underwhelming, though, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, totally agree.
I think they were untrained because they were a bunch of kids who just happened to come across the super soldier serum and have enhancements, but they weren't military. They've never been trained, the way that the original people that were given the super soldier serum were. They were Russian spies and Russian covert operatives. So I agree, though. They in the end they weren't as integral to the story as I thought they'd be.
Right.
But I think Carly herself and the motivations behind them were.
Yeah, the motivations that were intriguing, especially how they fit into the blip and, like, where the world is today. But they were very forgettable as far as characters and villains, I thought. And some of that, it kind of comes to light, I think, or makes sense as you make it through the entire series, because you really kind of realize that this show had a lot of different purposes or motivations. And so by the end, I found, like, to your point, like, they were kind of a red herring in a way, but even though we never got that next, like, big bad, reveal, pulling the strings, whatever it was with this, to me, the show actually was more about the struggle between Sam and the Shield. Like, it was like the villain was almost more about the Shield, if that makes sense, and, like, who should
Totally
take
makes
it
sense.
or what, versus what they were putting in front of our faces with the Flag Smashers.
Like, the villain was us all along. Is what it was.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, the villain was the establishment, which is very Captain America.
Well, that's
in
true.
That the villain is the governments of the world and the man, not necessarily an individual person, like an idea almost. And he's combating this with his ideas.
That's true. That's true. And we did see some of that, I guess, when they brought in the Isaiah Bradley character here and, kind of tied in this deeper lore behind the super soldiers and the government, essentially using him and other African-American soldiers like they did the Tuskegee Airmen. And I thought that was really, really awesome of Marvel, because very few people know who Isaiah Bradley is. I mean, I admittedly 100% had to go look him up to get the full backstory, but in doing that, you realize that he's only made a handful of appearances. He got one.
And recently.
Right, and more recently, exactly. I think the original that I saw here, it was called Truth, Red, White, and Black, came out in 2003.
Which is what the 5th episode is called, I think.
Yeah, Truth. And so they didn't have to do it, is what I'm getting at. You know, like Marvel did not have to put the emphasis and introduce a character like Isaiah Bradley into the universe. But the fact that they did, I thought, was very, very powerful.
I geeked out over his grandson. And I still think that's going to be the continuation legacy of Isaiah. Is like they're going to do something with Elijah. Like they're gonna turn him into something. Maybe not the Young Avengers, even though it's right there. It's right there, Disney. It's right there.
They've introduced like everybody from it though, because like Hawkeye's daughter is coming up, and they already did Wiccan and Speed.
Yeah.
Like I can't see how it doesn't end up there.
Yeah, it's gotta go. It's you're right. It's all right there. I just want it.
We can just hope.
Yeah, but if they don't, they could at least continue his story in some way, whether it's whatever happens in the future, if we get a season 2 or a miniseries 2, or this continues on into a movie of some kind. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here and talk future of the show before we finish up the show, but like that's where I geeked out the hardest. It was like, yeah, Isaiah was cool, awesome callbacks, amazing, but to kind of plant the seed of the legacy moving forward is what got me the most excited.
Well, and they didn't have to include the grandson.
Yeah.
You know, so to your point, like they did that for a specific reason. And as you said, Alex, you know, Wiccan and Speed and these other characters that are starting to pop up, it is definitely potential, whether it's a show or a mini series or a movie. I mean, they've got so many options now that's like everything is on the table.
And it has to keep going some way, you know? They're gonna like people are gonna start dying in real life, like they gotta let the kids go. But yeah, I don't see how they like. I think they had to address Isaiah Bradley, and I think they had to address all of that to do the story that they were doing. Like, I don't think you can. Like, I feel like, you know, maybe 3-5 years ago, you wouldn't have had to bring him in or anything like that. But I don't think there was a way they could have left him out in this day and age, like trying to do this story of giving Sam the shield.
Well, I agree with you there. I mean, it fit perfectly for this story and the struggle of Sam and his history and taking up the mantle of Captain America. So I thought it fit perfectly for what they told here. I just meant that, like, in general, like they could have never done that, and they could have done the story differently, and nobody would have batted an eye, because so few people even know that there is a character like Isaiah Bradley, even in the comic book history.
Absolutely. Like, they could have gone to like a graveyard or something and been like, oh,
right,
that's him right there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right, or an off mention or something like that. But to put him front and center and have those emotional impacts when they were having those discussions, I thought, you know, I only come back to it, I just thought it was powerful. It was good commentary. They were good characters. It was well executed. So I just bravo to Marvel on that one, I thought.
Absolutely.
Progressed Sam's story really well, too.
Yeah.
Because it rounded him out.
Well, and it challenged him interpersonally. He challenged Isaiah back. And so, you know, there was a lot of good dialogue in those moments, too. So from there, then, we jumped into episode 3. And to me, this is really where things started to pick up and move from, you know, setting the stage to just serving up some juicy meat and potatoes. Because we get the full involvement of Baron Zemo here. He's now been brought back. We get the introduction of that stunning city of Madripoor that cannot wait to see more of in the future. We hear some whispers of a seedy character called the Power Broker. And then, of course, you know, you get that epic tease at the end of the Dora Milaje with Bucky right there, which, I mean, that was kind of a theme in this show, I thought. There's a lot of teases right at the end of each episode to make you just...
Tune in next time.
Can't wait. Yeah, to come back.
Yeah.
But I know you mentioned Madripoor as being pretty cool. We had Baron Zemo here. We saw the super soldier serum being developed, so there was a lot of little bits and pieces that were kind of filling in some holes from previous MCU, but then also what we saw in the first 2 episodes. So what did you all think here about episode 3?
I really liked it. I thought it was cool they had the princess bar there, too. I was a little let down because I was really like, I just wanted any whisper of Wolverine in it. Like I was like, please, God, please just let them just maybe like the haircut in the background or a guy with an eye patch that you're like, yeah, maybe he's Patches or whatever. But, but so the first time I watched it, I was definitely just like waiting for that the whole time. I was like, this is it. But then upon rewatching it, I love the whole feel of it. And I love that kind of Blade Runner cyberpunk thing. The set was built in Georgia, which is wild. I know all of it was filmed, but just the fact that like that also is insane.
True.
Yeah, and I love the Zemo thing. Also, like just having him in it, and the part where like Bucky's talking about how to break him out of jail or whatever.
Yes.
That reminded me so much. Have you guys seen Logan Lucky?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So he plays like this race car driver in Logan Lucky, and he's talking about how he like stays healthy. It's a bit part, but it's still Sebastian Stan. And it's so similar. Like the way it's delivered, the way yeah, it's I'll send it to you later. But yeah, it reminded me exactly of that part because just the delivery, and he's talking about the hardware and the software. I was like, this is like straight out of that movie. Like I love Zemo so much also, like dancing Zemo forever and ever.
Oh yeah, like every aspect of Zemo was on point in this. What do you think, Kyle?
Oh, I mean, it's just I can just be like yes to everything you just said. Like, there's not much more that I feel like I need to add or even can add because like yes to literally everything you just said. Like yep, that it was just so good and like bringing Zemo back. And I'm a sucker for having the bad guy with you. And you got to keep your eye on him because he's going to do some shady stuff, but he's going to get you the result that you want, and it just had those vibes the entire time and sneaking into the city and into the bar and everything. Just, yes, it's the whole episode.
Well, in the scene in the bar, you've got kind of some comedy going on with Falcon dressed up as a character named Smiling Tiger.
Yeah.
Which was another just really interesting, tiny little like Easter egg. And I had to go look him up because Smiling Tiger is a real character in the comic books, but is super, super obscure. and I thought that was kind of interesting. But when they have that moment where things get tense and Zemo looks at Bucky and kind of gives him like the Winter Soldier nod, he doesn't give him the commands, but he's like, we got to do something here. And then Bucky just turns into Winter Soldier and just starts taking out everybody. Like that was my favorite moment of the show up until that point. Because it just had a different feel, different tone. The Madripoor seediness, it was like, okay, this is where we're picking it up. And he just waxes, like 6 people.
Yeah.
Easy. And still looked like he was holding back.
Mm-hmm. Which was such a relief to see him like just beat the daylights out of people. Because like the truck thing, I'm like, why are people holding him? And then like to see him Madripoor finally where he's just murdering people straight out. I was like, oh, okay, thank God. He's still got it. Okay, yeah. That's fine. It's fine. Another thing I really liked and that they used throughout the series was the score. And they used so much, because it's the same guy that scored Winter Soldier and Civil War. So getting to hear the Zemo theme when you see Zemo and, hear the Winter Soldier theme and all of that really, I feel like takes you back to those places, even like subconsciously or whatever. But I thought all of that was really like, I started to feel more of it in this episode more than anything was the use of the score.
Yeah, that deep cut right there. Because honestly, I did not know that, and that just makes it even better. Like I'm just gonna give a more emphasized yes.
Alex is reading Kyle's mind and then sharing thoughts.
Yeah.
We
called each other before this. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah. And then keeping the focus on Zemo, that's really why we got the return of the Dora Milaje. And so really, I know even the second time watching through, when that scene at the end of episode 3 pops up and Bucky goes walking down the street and runs into her, I got goosebumps both times. Like even knowing it was coming, it was just like, oh my God. Because they're another set of characters that we've only seen so much of. But they've got some good comic lore. So what were your thoughts there when she showed up?
I think she's so menacing. And I think she does such a good job with that. Like going back to Civil War, where he's like, when she's facing off with Natasha, you're just like, whoosh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, she's like, it's almost like Jaws. You're just like, oh man, you're gonna end and it's just like that quiet danger thing.
Right.
And just like all business, like complete conviction. So excited to see her show up, and especially because they've referenced Wakanda in every episode up to this point. So actually getting to see Wakanda manifest in the series, I thought was amazing.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about the references because for me, like when I saw that scene, I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I was almost like didn't see it coming, to be honest. But I was like, they're going to be involved here in the series.
I actually think the fight scene that goes down once, like in this getting into episode 4, once the Dora Milaje fully show up, that might be my favorite fight scene in the whole series. Is when like Sam and Bucky just kind of take a step back and let the Dora Milaje handle Lamar and John.
Right.
Like it's pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah, looking strong, John. Yeah.
Yeah, that was for sure up there as far as some of the best fight scenes in the show. Until you see the fight scene that Alex mentioned that's reminiscent of Civil War, I actually thought that I would be willing to have a barstool argument about how that Dora Milaje fight scene was a top 10 in Marvel history.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, even though it was short, like it was just everything that happened. I mean, it was
perfect.
doing it for me.
Yeah. Everything about it, like the teamwork, I think that was what got me for that fight scene is the teamwork amongst them. You can tell that they're a unified group from throwing the spear and like catching it. So it really wasn't a throw. It was more of a pass to like the precision throw to lock. Like John's got the shield, and that's kind of all John is at that point. Like he's just the shield, and in his dynamics and his fighting style versus like Steve was very martial arts, like punch kick, like whatever. John is all shield, and so once that shield was taken away from him, he was nothing. He just got handled, put on his butt. So seeing that play out was awesome.
Well, and they kind of reminded me of like Batman.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here watching them, how they are tearing apart, Captain America. They know exactly how to defend and attack the shield. She does the weird like 5-finger death punch thing to Bucky's arm, and just removes it. And you think about like that level of preparation, like they have trained for probably every known superhero and villain on the planet expertly. And it was just like all I could think about was Batman and like that level of cerebralness, to know your enemy and be prepared for anything, whether you think they're your friend or your foe.
What I like about the Dora Milaje is that they're so efficient. Like you can tell in that fight too, where they are just trying to kill. Like they if they're not stopped twice, they would have killed both Lamar and John.
Probably.
Like because like they literally like go to stab and it's grabbed twice, like both times. But like I feel like every move they make is meant to end a fight. Like they're not like, oh, we're not going to grapple or battle. It's just like this is going to be over right now. Which I love because I feel like you don't see a lot of that in movies where you're just like, no, I'm fighting to end this fight. Like this isn't for like cinema or anything. Like I just want this over as quickly as possible. Like we have stuff to do. So that was cool to see too.
Well, and in the words of John Walker, they weren't even super soldiers.
Yes.
They are just regular people.
Yeah. It's true.
And like you think about all the tech of Wakanda, like they use spears. Like they're not even like all geared up. I mean they are, but they aren't, compared to what they could have if you think about the Black Panther suit or the arm that they made Bucky. Like they look seemingly ordinary, but
guess they don't need it. Yeah,
well, right,
they could have Iron Man suits, or they could all have Black Panther suits,
Exactly.
No, that's a great point.
But they're like in dresses. Just like what you
like
want.
Yeah. I've got my vibranium shield or my vibranium spear, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. I mean, they're so impressive. Like, give me a Dora Milaje series now.
Absolutely.
I expect to see a lot of the Dora Milaje come, like especially with the next Black Panther. And it kind of being about Wakanda as a whole, I would imagine, versus T'Challa individually as the Black Panther. I expect to see a lot of the secondary characters from that country come out, and it's not just going to be the Shuri show. Although I'd be cool with that. I think we're going to get a lot of the other characters fully developed.
Yeah, I think that's a good prediction. As they move past, of course, Chadwick Boseman and all of that. They're going to need to lean on them, I think. So, but we alluded to it with episode 4 and the fight scene here. With that, you really just see the stakes keep escalating and tensions are growing even more between Falcon and Bucky and Zemo and Captain America. They were never really on good terms from the beginning, but it just seemed like that conflict and tension continued to rise as we move through the episodes here. We did get a pretty critical scene between our hero and the villain, when Sam confronts Carly. And I thought that all in all that this episode was actually much more about the peripherals than, the main story, even though that moment between Sam and Carly with what was going on in the background of that with John Walker, seemingly losing his shit and just making that heel turn from trying to be a good Captain America to, being impatient. And it was really just kind of like this downward spiral that was happening as we were getting this crucial conversation between Sam and Carly. So I thought that the transition from like Boy Scout John Walker to, that impatient person to like murderer was really hasty. And so I didn't know if you all had any thoughts there, but to me it was reminiscent of almost like how they treated Daenerys in season 8 of GOT, where it needed more time. It needed more flushed out, and it was just like bang, bang, bang. We went from, okay, here's a Golden Boy Medal of Honor winner trying to be Captain America to now he doesn't trust anybody. He's ready to go. So did you all have any of those similar thoughts, or did you take it a different way?
My view with him was, also I finished Game of Thrones last night. I finally watched the last 2 episodes, just in case you brought it up. I started watching it. I watched all of it during quarantine, except for the last 2 episodes. And I was like, let me just watch these. 'Cause I'm going to talk to Chris tomorrow.
Might as well.
But with John Walker, I thought it was more, since they referenced what he did in Afghanistan or whatever, what I felt was that he was, I feel like he was just a violent person naturally, and he was trying to be better. So it's like kind of like you see the dudes that like they're in an abusive relationship and they're trying to get like the person back,
yeah,
and then they're like, no, I bought you flowers and like look how great I am, and then it's like after a while like or they're just like they can't keep up the charade anymore, so then it's like it's murder time USA.
That's a good way
but that's kind of how I felt about it, because like it was like I didn't think about it until you brought it up that it was a really quick transition. Like you see little bits like in the end of the first episode where he's like, stay out of my way, and everyone's like, you're doing an impersonation of your dad.
Right.
Or that was episode 2, not episode 1. But I feel like it was more just him, especially with taking the super soldier serum during that episode. That is hard to say.
Say it 3
out
times
loud.
fast.
Yeah, no. I feel like with the fact that he's committed they've alluded to the fact that he's committed atrocities in the past, and they've given him medals for it. And just his talk with Lamar outside that cafe right before Lamar, rest in peace, gets it. Yeah, I just feel like he was just like simmering, like waiting to boil over, and it just needed a thing when you add the super soldier serum to that equation.
That's a good take. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but I think you might have hit the nail on the head there. Because for me, I was kind of almost like looking at it from the other side. And it wasn't working, but if I were to rewatch with that perspective, I think I would see it a little better, and maybe it wouldn't have felt so out of place or hasty, as I said, rushed. And Kyle, you've got a little more history with John Walker in the comics, so what did you think there?
I actually thought I really liked it. I thought it was well done, because what I picked up on, and I didn't catch this until second watches, is that because John doesn't always get the primary screen time, he's always almost in the background, which has got to be super frustrating when you're wearing the Captain America uniform.
Yeah.
But like it's almost on that mindset that throughout, episodes 2 and 3, he's not leading. He's got to use Sam and Bucky to get the leads on, this mystery as they try to figure out, go full detective. And that's frustrating him. So if you kind of catch him in the background, he's got these like twitches and these moments where like he's so used to being in control.
That's true.
When he was in the military and in saving lives, and basically, and it all comes to head. Once again, I'm getting ahead of us, so I apologize. But like it comes ahead in this 5th episode where he kind of loses his mind on the senators in front of him being like, look, you built me to be this way. And that's all I've ever done is done what you asked me to do and be what you've asked me to be. And so in the lead up to him like kind of going full crazy, it's this idea that he just wants to be in control again. And he's been put in a situation where he's over his head and he's desperate to do anything to get the control back and to be the primary again. And ultimately it boils over and he goes too far.
Yeah, and I mean, you think, I guess, the absolute pressure that the Captain America mantle would put on anybody, but then you add to the fact that Steve Rogers is like the greatest human of all
Ever.
time,
Yeah.
you know? And so, like, the pressure of being like the perfect golden boy, I imagine maybe that wasn't a good mix between his desire to be as good as he is or good as he was in the military field, and then adding in these expectations to live up to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it probably wasn't a good recipe for mental health.
Well, especially with like the PTSD of whatever happened in Afghanistan.
True.
Because that sounds horrible. And I keep bringing that up. It's like, maybe we shouldn't have given this guy the mantle of Captain America.
Right.
But it all plays back into the original theme of like trying to find the perfect soldier. And it's like, but that's not what you want in Captain America. You just want
You want a good man.
you want a good man. And like obviously that's not an original thought. There's like 1,000 memes out there of, you know, Captain America, the first Avenger. But like it holds true. It holds true that he is probably a great, fantastic soldier, but that's just not right for Captain America.
And I think they allude to that too in episode 2 where Bucky's like, have you ever jumped on a grenade? And he was like, yes. And it's like they've taken this, this good man part of Steve where he was self-sacrificial and everything, and then turned it into this military training and just, I have the reinforced helmet and all that. Like, so they've taken this gesture and turned it into a perfect soldier thing.
Yeah.
That's true, because he even jokes about it. He's like, it's a thing. I've got this helmet,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
whereas Steve jumped on it with like his stomach.
Yeah, when he was like 90 pounds.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Before he even had the serum. And so speaking of that and the serum and kind of the craziness, right? So through this episode, probably the one other main thing to call out here was that, we do see John Walker get a hold of the serum. We do see Battlestar, his partner, pretty much get killed, kind of by accident, but it happens in the heat of battle. And then John Walker goes off and pretty much murders one of the battle smashers in the final scene here. And I want to get to that real quick because that was some brutal and awesome imagery. But I did have a question since we were talking about the serum and it's so important to the MCU. But do you think that vial of serum that John Walker took was like truly the last super soldier serum that's in the MCU right now? Or are we going to see more of that in a future production?
I think it depends on Thunderbolt. Can't remember his last name because he was developing it in Hulk, right?
Yeah, like that's part of the Hulk's origins is that
Yeah.
Banner was trying to reproduce it.
So and he made the not Abomination. That's Superman. What is his name?
No, Abomination.
It is okay. I was
Yeah.
like, what is the Superman guy?
You're thinking about Doomsday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. I know all
okay,
the nerd
so-
things. Let me
So we know essentially then already that other people have been working on it as well. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I think. And also like if they can take it out of someone's blood, like Bucky and Isaiah are still alive. And John.
Good point.
So like there's always that possibility. I think it's because I know what is Isaiah Roberts' grandson's name?
Elijah?
Yeah, Elijah. So I think in the comic books, he become whatever his superhero identity is that I also can't remember because I have a great memory. But he actually doesn't get he gets a blood transfusion from Isaiah, and that's how he gets like super soldier powers or whatever. So I think we will see it, especially if they go that route with him, and you are able to get super soldier powers from a blood transfusion. Like, who's not to say they're going to turn them into like a blood bag from Mad Max or whatever,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. So it's kind of always out there.
That's
unless-
probably way too
Yeah.
gory, horrible, but like I'm just saying the options there.
Well, I think Zemo references that to some extent, where like as long as a super soldier exists, then the potential for more super soldiers will always exist. And I don't know if there was the second or the third episode, but he kind of alludes to that idea. And that plays into comic book stuff, like the Red Skull and Baron Zemo are constantly chasing Steve Rogers because they want his blood.
True.
For one reason or another.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective, but I know that they were kind of making such a big deal over, we thought there wasn't any more out there, and now we see Carly had, 20 vials of it or whatever it may be. And then they really kind of stressed it as Zemo was destroying all the vials that she had, but then John finds that one last one. And it's not a theme that they've been too hard on as far as the MCU goes. It had been a little while since we had this kind of emphasis on super soldiers with all the other characters that have come out. But it just made me wonder if there was, maybe they were saying there like, okay, John Walker might be the last authentic super soldier or not.
Well, also, like, kind of calling back to WandaVision, like, when they took Vision's body, like, what did they do with Carly's body? Because we knew that, like, we know that Zemo blew up the truck, but, like, where is Carly's body? So it could, I mean, if they're doing that kind of thing, like, who's to say they're not going to just take her somewhere and take her blood out and do whatever with it? I mean, they took Vision completely apart, so why wouldn't they also do that?
That is a really good point, actually, because we never saw anything happen after she gets put on that stretcher.
No one's actually dead. No.
No one's. Yeah. Even Lamar, because like Lamar died, and we never actually see what happens to his body.
That's true. He is like, man. That it like, when I watched that though, I was like, man, if they've ever absolutely killed someone in a Marvel thing, like just that, like, and then silenced from him, I was like, huh, he is the most dead.
Yeah.
That being said, he'll probably come back as a cyborg or something, or a wizard.
Well, and speaking of all the blood and the death, though, I mean, that's really exactly how this episode ended, and with the great cliffhangers that this show had leading up to it, this might have been the most jaw-dropping for all the reasons. But so Battlestar dies. That really, truly kind of seals the deal for John Walker going crazy, and indiscriminately he takes off. He's chasing down one of the Flag Smashers and just brutally murders him, beats him with the shield right in a town square with 100 people, all cameras out, phones out, live streaming it. And that last scene with him holding the shield and it's just like half covered in blood, I mean, that imagery was so dark and different from everything we've seen with the shield and with Captain America. How did you react to that?
That's my favorite Marvel moment, I think, of all time.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. I was like, man, I'm going to get a bloody Captain America shield. Just it happened. Like, I'm not, okay, maybe Steve getting the hammer, but like.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I love Winter Soldier and I love Civil War for different reasons. But I think Civil War feeling wise is a huge departure from the feeling of Winter Soldier, which is a lot more brutal, but that really felt like the progression from Winter Soldier, like that it just got more dark, and that like 100% that all the way. So I was so pumped about that. Like it sucks obviously, and it's terrible that he did that to the shield. And like in episode 6 you see Sam kind of reacting and like that beautiful piece or whatever, but just in that moment. And I love that they showed that, because I was not expecting to get all that on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But like, and especially with that, with the 1-2 punch with like Lamar getting super dead, and then the bloody shield, it was beautiful. It was everything I wanted.
What did you think, Kyle?
I mean, yeah, it was so powerful. Like it just cemented everything. Like John Walker has gone down this path. Like it is very representative of probably what a lot of people think of the United States, especially in the show, and the symbol of everything Carly was saying in regards to what that shield represents, and the government coming back and caring about the people that came back versus the people that were still here. Like it hit all the right notes. And like, honestly, you're right, I didn't think about it until just now that it was a Disney Plus show, and Disney went full out. They didn't hold back in that scene. There was blood everywhere. It was vicious. They may not have shown, the cut of the shield going into what I would assume that guy's either neck or chest, but all the imagery was there. And like the way the shield blocked out the light from the guy that got killed earlier in the episode, literally talking about how he was a Captain America fan when he was a boy and like idolized him, like all the right notes, all the right Easter eggs and seeds planted to build to that epic, powerful moment.
And I think too that like if there was any hope that Steve was going to be in this this miniseries, like that was it. It was like, no, Captain America is dead.
Yeah.
Like he is not, like he's not coming back. Like this is the thing. Like it can only go forward. We're not going back from here.
Yeah, it can't be changed. And I thought, to your point, yeah, Disney Plus that's an interesting other way to look at it, because when I watched this, I remember one of my first thoughts was, like, what are the casual fans or the kids going to think?
Yeah.
And while the tone of the show, like, it was definitely more PG-13 or built more maybe for the older fans to some extent, seeing that and just the straight departure that all of it was from, 10 or 15 years of MCU world building. And most casual fans only know Steve Rogers as the perfect, all-American hero. And you think about how that correlates to life, like Kyle, you just alluded to, how some people see the United States. And I mean, there are some people that think the United States can do no wrong, that everything the American military does is perfect and virtuous and, democracy. And then there's a lot of people that are more real, that we understand that the world is much more gray. And for as much good as we've done in the world right, or as much good as the military's done, we've also done a whole lot of bad. And so, I thought that there was just good imagery to fit the theme of the show of like, hey, the world isn't black and white. The world is very much gray, and for every good, there's also a lot of bad that's probably gone into helping make that good, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, and I think too, like the whole, like with people filming it is definitely like referencing what's been going on in America, like as far as like police brutality and all that stuff, like,
right.
And people filming it, like, I feel like that was super referenced and just in that end moment too.
Yeah.
Well, encompassed in the title of the episode, the whole world is watching.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boom, right there. Every cell phone was out, every bit. And this is something that I kind of saw on like an Easter egg thread, that apparently like in every John Walker scene, if you check the background, somebody has their phone out and is like, has it on him in some way, because he's this, he's a celebrity now and he's got to get used to that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a carryover of like the Steve bit, because everyone was constantly taking snapshots of Steve when they could in the old, like whenever he was just trying to have dinner or something, like, or the most iconic moment is when he ripped the cab door off and blocked it and there's a photographer there. Like,
yeah,
Captain America is his symbol and people are always going to have their eye on it. So you need to be better. And he was not in that moment.
No, he just needed a baseball cap so no one would know who it was. Because that's it's the undercover
glasses.
outfit. Yeah, just hoodie, baseball cap. No one knows.
Well, and after that happens and leaves us all, picking our jaws up off the floor, we get into episode 5 and it pretty much picks up right away. And we see the confrontation of Bucky and Sam with John Walker, because they, saw what happened or knew what happened, realized that is not okay. That is not living up to Steve's standards. And they, now we finally get to see this conflict come to a head where they duke it out in an epic triple threat match. And you alluded to it. It was very reminiscent of the one from Civil War with Steve, Iron Man, and Winter Soldier. And it really was cool because, at the end, it took everything out of the guys. Like, you see them, like, nobody's happy about it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to do it, but they're all just, like, laying on the ground exhausted. And, of course, Bucky at one point has the shield, and I imagine you all were rooting for him just to keep it.
I was so glad they gave us that moment. That's all I wanted. I knew, like, Bucky really has no business having it. Like, in the same vein that, like, John Walker really has no business having it. Like, they're both just PTSD nightmare boys. Like, that I love one of them. But I love that they, like, panned out and gave us that one shot where he does have the shield. I was just like, oh, at least I have that for the background on my phone or whatever. It doesn't matter. But Yeah, that fight was amazing. There are like I watched this comparison breakdown of like there are like shot for shot a lot of similarities with Civil War, but also of course like my thing I'm going to hit again is just like the score. It's from that scene. It's from the same scene in Civil War where it's the three of them fighting.
Yeah.
They use the same one. And they use a lot of the same fighting positions too. So when he's coming down with the shield and stuff like that, which they reference in the end of 4 where he kills that guy, because it's kind of the same thing that Steve does to Tony at the end, but like Steve makes the decision to not kill Tony.
Right.
Whereas like John obviously like, gets it with that guy. But yeah, the fight was amazing. It could have been 40 minutes longer and I would have watched it, but I'm also a Battle of the Five Armies fan. They could fight forever. I'm down. Yeah, I'm totally down with it. But the arm break, I was like, huh!
Yeah.
But I love that they that they went that far with it on Disney Plus.
Snapped his arm right in half at the elbow.
Oh, snapped it so hard.
Had to do it. I like that in the beginning, it's kind of the suggestion that they should just go do. They should, like, Bucky and Sam should just go fight John and take the shield. And they're like, no, and Sam talks him out of it, like, no, that's not going to work. And then ultimately, that's what they had to go do.
Yeah.
Like, there was no getting around it. It's like, he put them in that position. Like, it was the only natural conclusion of that is like, hey, man, like, this isn't, you can't just walk away from this. Like, that didn't just happen. You need to hand the shield over. And if not, we're about to take it by force.
And I think it's a great thing about Sam, though, too, is that he was looking for every other option besides fighting, which I didn't even realize until you brought that up, that he proposed that in, like, the second episode or whatever. But I think it was nice that he, for Sam, tried other ways, but also that Sam didn't want to go that route, too.
I mean, the only thing Sam didn't try, though, was, like, actually working with John. I mean,
yeah,
that's true.
Like for as cordial as he tried to be, he like never once, was cool with tagging up with him.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like John said this, and I guess it's in episode 2. He was like, I'm just trying to do the job, and it would be a lot easier if I had Captain America's wingman by my side.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where like John saw Sam as a potential sidekick. Steve never looked at him that way. He was always his partner, and that's a very different dynamic. And Bucky was the same way. Bucky was his partner, not his coworker. Yeah, like
well, him and Bucky were best friends before any of this happened.
Yeah, too. Yeah. But the distinction there that John was like, "Come work for me."
True. Yeah.
Under my guys, and like Sam's too grown up for that. The Falcon is his own man. And he can stand on his own 2 feet, like as a hero and as a person. So
it's a good point. And they established that because I thought one of the interesting things going back to like the opening scene was we see how much Sam does by himself. Even though he is like an Avenger, I mean, the whole thing is him out like running sorties and missions on his own with nobody else until he starts getting the involvement from Bucky and stuff. So yeah, like it's not like he needs other people. He didn't need Steve Rogers to be a hero. They just complemented each other well.
Yeah.
Well, and ultimately that first fight really was kind of the highlight for this episode because it slowed back down after that and it kind of just kept feeding us little pieces. We saw Zemo handed over to the Wakandans finally. So, maybe we'll see more of him in the future, maybe not. We see Sharon Carter getting even more seedy. She's got some really shady conversations she's having with folks to kind of keep giving you that feed that maybe she is the power broker. And then we meet a brand new character to the MCU in Contessa Valentina Allegra, Evil Elaine DeFontaine.
I would applaud, but I'm just applauding with my heart that you nailed that. I was like, man, I don't know any part of her name.
Yeah, so, she comes out and starts having some business with John Walker that we see, but nothing too much is given away there. And then we get Sam going home for that soul searching, and honestly, it was a pretty sweet training montage we got there at the end.
We got 2 montages in that episode. That's true. More montages than we've ever gotten, I think.
Buddy montage with him and Bucky.
Building a boat, which is classic 80s, right?
Yeah.
And then the training montage of Sam, really picking up the shield and figuring out the moves and using the shield. Where do you think that training montage lands on your list of like best training montages of all time?
Somewhere between Rocky 3 and Rocky 2. It's like I don't
It's like it's very impressive. My favorite part of that montage is they'd hit this a couple times in it, but they really like give it a standalone moment where they call his nephews call him Uncle Sam, which they did the whole series, but like I feel like they're really like, no, get it, Uncle Sam, get it, which I really liked too. But that whole thing just made me tired because I was like, I know he's in Louisiana and it looks like it's warm outside, so that's got to be miserable. like I'm sweating watching this.
Yeah, but none of them were sweating, which I call bullshit.
Because they're all perfect. They're just better people than we are. It's fine.
True. It's true. It was a good scene. Like it worked. But as we went back to what we were saying at the beginning, that was really where I started to think that the show needed more time. Because it didn't feel like that was properly placed in a way. Like almost like the time in Louisiana should have just been its own entire episode and then moved in. Whereas we got that blood pumping with that, triple threat match at the beginning and then kind of went to sleep.
Yeah, and I think too, like for me, so during the first montage, the 80s boat building, the one crazy summer montage, if you will. Yeah. Like they're doing it, and then towards the end, Bucky's like, "So what do you think about Carly?" And I didn't even register what he said because I just assumed he was asking him about a football team or something because I was so in this montage of like them being best friends and building boats or whatever. That was one of the times where I was like, "Oh, it needed to be longer. It needed to be its own episode." Like I feel like if they had stuck the, I don't know, just did it a little different or something and made they should have made the John Walker fight 40 minutes long and then made the Louisiana thing separate. Just because that was really like jarring, I guess, to be like, they're doing everything. He's like, "Oh, so what do you think about, Carly?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that's right. All of this is going on." Yeah. They're not going to get to paint the boat.
And there's like one line where Sam mentions to his sister or something that, they've been benched by the government essentially, which, I guess is to explain why they're now just chilling out instead of continuing to pursue Carly when things were heating up. But it just felt a little out of place at that point, because when you're watching it the first time, my thought was like, just coming back for some pizza. You know what I mean? Like, you're just hanging out, like the world's about to end and you're just like chilling, like whatever, go paint a boat. And so it just didn't fit as much,
I agree with that.
It makes sense because he was, I think earlier in the series, he had said, like, we're free agents. We don't have to wait for anyone to tell us to go in. Like, we can just go in. And it seemed odd that all of a sudden now he was like, yeah, I'll wait.
Right, exactly, yeah. Like, you would have thought that his, like, whole spirit had been broken.
Well, his wings got ripped off, I think, too, which is a huge thing, which I thought was cool. I don't know if his wings got actually ripped off in the comic, but I know that, like, it just reminded me of Angel getting his wings ripped off by Wolf, some shit. Like, in X-Men. Like, rip the wings off, becomes Archangel and all that. So I thought that was really cool that it was like, Gah! But I think that kind of, like, maybe precipitated him going home, kind of like just being like, man, what do I have now? I don't have wings.
That's a good point.
Or like having to rebuild or whatever. Even though like you kind of see that like the Falcon is being stripped from him the whole series, with Red Wing getting broken in half. Super great in that second episode, and then his wings getting ripped off, and then him finally leaving it to
Joaquin.
Yeah, then Torres, the next Falcon.
That's right. Yeah, his sidekick that was kind of only there for like 12 minutes of total screen time,
which I was fine with. He was too earnest.
Yeah.
Well, that did bring us to the finale then of the series. So in the sixth episode, it was really an interesting mix of action and drama. And personally, I don't know if I thought that either were really achieving like a greatness level. It was good, but I think with their kind of dual motivations with wrapping everything up, it left a little bit to be desired on both sides, even though it was a fitting way to bring everything full circle and give us that resolution for this series. We see him, confront the Flag Smashers, and obviously he debuts as Captain America after doing the training montage. He gets his new suit. We also got confirmation of a lot of the suspicions. And I think I got to give you the shout out, Alex, because when I was in your chair a couple weeks ago after the first couple episodes, we talked a little bit about who we thought the power broker might be. And you nailed Sharon Carter while I was over here, like, oh, it's Mephisto, and
It should have been.
No, actually, I think I told you, I was really on the board. I thought it was going to be Wilson Fisk, and you were going to kind of tie him back in, Kingpin. But either way, we got that reveal. And of course, we also got a lot of interesting call outs. I think for the second time here in this episode, we get the call out that Steven Rogers might be on the moon. And so I wanted to kind of stop there, and because they made a point to have two different side characters reference that Steve Rogers is on a base on the moon. And so do you buy that or not?
I think he's in Nick Fury's thing, with the Skrulls or whatever. Like Nick Fury's in space with the Skrulls. I think it's at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. It's an end scene in one of the Marvel movies that's come out recently.
I haven't seen Far From Home yet, so that could be why that is.
Spoiler alert.
That's fine. That's fine. So it's reached it's beyond its spoiler warning.
Okay.
Is it the Sword Station?
Yes, I think. I know the Skrulls are there. I know he's up there. And I think it's at the end of Far From Home, but I'm not sure. But yeah, he's it cuts to a beach and then he's in space and he doesn't have shoes on, which is upsetting to me. But I think he's up there. That's my guess, is that he is up there. I don't think he's actually on the moon. I think it is interesting that Nick Fury's up there because at one point he has that thing with Uatu, where he's he's revealed to be Earth's defender, but he does things
in the...
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, in the Original Sin story. Yeah, at the end of Original Sin.
Yeah.
Bucky
ends up being that. Yes, yeah, exactly. So I was maybe it'll go that way.
So condense that for Chris. So at the end of Original Sin, Nick Fury basically becomes like the all-seeing person, and he needs to find a replacement who's kind of got the Watcher of the Wall vibes, where he protects Earth from, he's preemptively protecting Earth from outer universal people that could interfere. And Bucky, it's a trippy story about Bucky. It's super weird. But then Bucky kind of takes on that role of defending Earth realm. It's really hard not to make weird other IP references, because it's kind of what it is. He's kind of the Watcher on the Wall who's protecting Earth realm from other multiverses. And it's next comic shipment, I'll throw that trade in there and you can be really confused.
It's super, and also too, so in the comics, I don't think Bucky ever gets the super soldier serum, but he does in that. I think he gets the Infinity something, because Nick Fury has it, and then they give it to Bucky because Bucky dies or something. I think that's the same one, but I might be confusing that with another one. But that's where he has some enhanced abilities, is from that and not the super soldier serum.
One of the Infinity Stones.
No, it's Infinity Serum or something. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay. It's so hard. I mean, there's a million storylines in comics.
There's so many.
Because comics,
Yeah.
Yeah. All the things with the same words.
And so, Steve could be on the moon. He could be on that station. He could be somewhere, just chilling.
Well, I didn't know about the piece from Far From Home because, like I said, I hadn't watched that yet. But thinking back to WandaVision with that final scene with Monica Rambeau when we see, is it the Skrull or the...
Yeah, and they go up there.
Yeah, and she points up there and talks about, the boss or whoever wants to talk to her. So when they were so blatant about the Steve on the moon thing and how people, kind of average people were oh, yeah, isn't he on the moon? It seems like there's something that they haven't told us yet, really, but the people of the world seem to have some idea that something is going on.
It could be. I don't know. I'd also kind of be okay with Chris Evans retiring and not coming back, I know it's a heartbreaker. He's really good. He was amazing, but like we said, it's time to move forward with the universe and move forward with characters. If we keep bringing Chris Evans back, it's going to make it harder to let him go. So there has to be a clean break at some point.
I really Chris, you brought this up to me another time you were in my chair, because we were talking about when Chris Evans got re-signed, and you brought up Hydra Cap.
Yeah.
And I'm so about that. I would love him to come back as that.
That's the one storyline, because I'm kind of with Kyle. Like, let's move on a little bit, at least for a little while. But if they were to do full villain, Hydra Cap, Steve Rogers, I think that would be worth it, just because that would be a big twist for the average fans, I think.
The only other one I would want to see is the Planet Hulk, Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, but that's a whole other thing.
That's down a whole
and that would
path.
never happen. Yeah.
I just want Planet Hulk as a movie.
That's true.
Or World War Hulk, one of those. But going back, because you are right. We are kind of down a line here, Kyle. And I do want to see, because really the main reveal here for this episode at the very beginning was, okay, now Sam is truly Captain America. He's got that bright, brand new, shiny, straight out of Wakanda suit where he gets his wings back. He's got all the stars and stripes going. He's got the shield. What did you think about the new suit, Kyle?
Oh, the new suit looked great. I think the only change I would want to make is, and it is going to make it more comic book accurate, which is not why I'm saying this. I actually think aesthetically, the wings should be red. I thought that was it was just too much blue, and it was clashing with the white. And I actually thought the one change you could make is make the wings, keep the wings red, as paying tribute to his time as Falcon, and it would look a lot better for me, and then also be comic book accurate. But like I said, that's not why I'm saying it. But it's a nice little bonus for me if it is comic book accurate. But I really liked it. I thought it all made sense. Like, it looked good. Marvel always does a great job with making real comic book outfits and uniforms, making them realistic when they bring them to the MCU.
Right.
So all in all, I was really impressed, even though it was a lot of white up top.
What about you, Alex? Did it work for you?
I didn't realize they weren't red, so I agree that they should be red, because I just assumed that they were, and I'm very observant, obviously. But yeah, I thought they would have been red and should be red. So if they're not, I definitely go with that. But yeah, no, I was into it. It was, I'd seen it leaked, that one of the toys got leaked or something, unfortunately. So I kind of saw it, and I was super pumped that it was accurate. Even the parts that don't necessarily make sense, like leaving his head open, but aesthetically, it's what you want. Because you can't just have him in a motorcycle helmet or whatever, because that doesn't work.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was super into it. But yeah, I would also vote to make the wings red in that respect.
That's a good call out.
They did the whole same little documentary that they did on WandaVision. They did on Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I don't know if you guys saw it, but they talked about all the touch-ups that they had to do on his neck and his face because they couldn't naturally make the uniform stick to his face and his cheeks. So there's these creases and there's these holes that are there when he moves his head. And I'm sure anyone that's ever put on a bat cowl is familiar with the awkwardness of putting on a headpiece. And so they did all these crazy CGI touch-ups to make it so it was flush against his neck and his cheeks. It was wild, because that's the type of thing that you would think that they could just skip out on and nobody would say anything. Because oh yeah, that makes sense. Well done, Marvel, for paying the extra, graphics editor to touch that up and take it next level.
I almost brought that up, but I was like, there's no way that anyone will care about that. So I'm so excited that you did. Yeah, no, exactly. Because there's big gaps, and you don't realize how impactful it is that they fixed it until you see that oh yeah, no, that does look way, way better. And love that they took the minute to they took the time. They didn't do the whole thing CG like they did with Vision too. Just having them just clean that up a little bit. So everything is really practical, because I do love that about all of the Captain America stuff in the MCU is that the textures of it I feel are so important. I think they've nailed that since the first movie, just having everything be really tactile, and all of you just feel everything. You don't get taken out by the CGI very often, if ever, in the Captain America stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it. And I hadn't watched the documentary yet. So, I'm sitting here going, it's crazy that they even did that, because it was top notch.
Yeah, we're way past it. But when you get to the part where they talk about the squirrel suit scene, and the insane amount of touch-ups that are put together on that scene and how they filmed it. I said we don't need to backtrack and talk about it, but that that little 5-minute segment of how they filmed it and then pieced it together is like mind-blowing. We were watching, I turned to Taylor and I was like, movies are crazy.
It's wild. And like the truck stuff, like they replaced the truck scene. You got to watch it. That documentary is amazing. But yeah, the fact that they weren't on trucks at all ever is crazy.
Movie magic.
It
is just absolutely nuts.
Chris, did you like his new Cap outfit? Did you feel like it was solid, or were you like, oh, get out of here with this?
No, I thought it was spot on. I mean, Falcon's got a good look anyways with the suit, and it's very sleek and modern. So kind of buffing it up a little bit and giving him that different design. You know, a lot of the white, it stands out even more than the different Captain America suits that Steve wore with the subtle changes. It gave me all the feels. I mean, I just thought it was so powerful, like looking at it as this like coming out origin story arc as a whole. The whole build with Sam, you know, slow parts and all, to that reveal. I mean, it was just perfect, I thought. And for me, I also thought it was cool because you realize how much Marvel head faked everybody, you know, with the shield. Like, you had the moment at the end of Endgame where he gives Falcon the shield, but like nobody really believed that he was going to end up being Captain America. And then they kind of doubled down on it at the beginning of this show when Sam gives it away. And then, you know, after all of the struggle and the inner turmoil, to see him come up in that level of glory with that new suit, I thought was fantastic. And like, you know, it had all the right reverence for the shield and what Steve stands for and what Captain America should be or really could be. I think that's a lot of what the thing with Sam is it's like, what could a black Captain America do for the country or for the people and all of that? I mean, it was just all captured right there for me, I thought.
Well, he nailed it when he turned to Carly and she kind of called him out with being like, you putting on the suit of all things. And he says, I'm trying something different.
Exactly. Like, you're there. It goes back to what we were saying. Like, you know, there's so much that is good about America, but there's also a lot that needs to be fixed. It was all like captured, I thought, really well in this moment.
I like too that like, so now we've lost Iron Man and Captain America in this world right now, but I liked how it incorporated like his jet stuff to like compensate for the super soldier, like him not taking the super soldier serum, because it also kind of felt like Iron Man-y too. So it's kind of, I feel like he's kind of taking this like, you know, alpha superhero, not label title or whatever, like he's taking this position. And I really liked how they combined some of the jets and the movement, and how, like, you know, a little later on in the episode where he's saving the truck thing, or the armored truck vehicle that the senators are in, and he uses, like, you know, he's got the detached things that like come off and shoot, kind of like Iron Man used in Spider-Man, the first one, to push the boat together.
Right,
like, it was a lot of reminiscent for that. So I feel like it was like kind of cathartic in that way, that you're like, oh, we have our Captain America back, and maybe we have a little bit of Iron Man back too.
That's true. Yeah, like a hybrid of both.
Yeah. And it's acknowledged that, well, I guess his new suit is Wakandan, but the original suit was Stark Tech integrated into it. I thought that his using of his Falcon powers, even though they're not powers, but just for general conversation, the Falcon powers was like an awesome way to kind of establish that he's going to be his own Captain America in a way that, like, when we saw John, like I said, John was all SHIELD.
Yeah.
And as much as he said, I'm not trying to be Steve, he was very much trying to be Steve in the way he fought and like held himself. And Sam didn't at all. Sam out the gate was utilizing the wings and utilizing the jetpack and doing, you know, everything that he was comfortable doing, and then adding in the shield,
right,
and just like building it into his move set. And it was very much like, okay, he's not forgetting his roots, which I thought was awesome.
Well, and they established like a really cool level of comfort, you know, fairly early on in that final episode, because he has the initial fight. You know, he comes into the building and then he just like throws the shield out the window and then dives after it and like catches it in midair. And it's like, that was kind of an advanced move for somebody who's only now been trained with the shield, since like
For a single
yeah,
montage.
for a single montage, exactly. And so I'm totally with you there. I thought they highlighted that well. It was kind of cool how the shield was almost like its own character in this show.
Yeah.
And like the way they displayed it, the way they talked about it, it almost gave the shield even more life than it had before.
It's like the Millennium Falcon. Like, you're like, oh, this is its own character. Like, if that had been exploded at any point, you would be like, oh my God.
Right.
And I feel like the shield kind of carried that same weight into this show with it being, like you said, like its own character, like its own thing, to where you really care, where it is. And it wouldn't just like, you couldn't just make another shield like that as the shield.
Right. Well, and we saw that too,
Yeah, we saw
right?
that.
To that point was Mr. Walker created his own shield out of what looked to be like aluminum foil and some war metals. Once it started getting used, it was just tin canned, destroyed pretty quickly. But that was a cool way, and I didn't think about it you just say, but like they kind of made that point. Like there's only one vibranium Captain America shield.
Well, I think they hit that really hard in the first one because they're like, this is all the vibranium in the world, even though obviously it wasn't.
True.
Because Bucky could have gone and gotten another shield at any point in time, obviously, since he comes up with this Wakanda whole suit, right? But like, he wanted to get that one because like he's like, no, this is it. Like it's like if your kid gets kidnapped, like, well, we can make another kid, or we could go get our kid. Like, let's go get our kid.
Yeah.
I think Bucky says at one point that the shield is family to him.
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of plays on the same themes there.
I think he's also wearing Steve's dog tags, but I won't touch that. But
It's possible.
I think because like, okay, I'll go into it. So when Bucky falls off the train, he's wearing his dog tags. Falls, dead, Hydra. They didn't give him new dog tags, and he's wearing some super old dog tags. So I think he's wearing Steve's dog tags.
I mean, that would be a pretty powerful thing for Steve to have given.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about any soldier, they usually relish those dog tags.
And I don't think he's wearing them at the end game. I haven't gone back and watched it. He's got the book that he gives back to the therapist. But I think, and like he gave the shield to Sam, but I think he's got the dog tags that he's keeping.
I know what I'm Googling when we wrap.
Yeah.
Does he have the dog tags?
Yeah. I kept waiting for them to say something about it because as soon as he had the notebook, I was like, that's Steve's notebook. He definitely has Steve's notebook. And then it was, and I did a backflip and I was like, I'm the most right person on earth. And so I kept waiting for the dog tags because they show them quite a bit and they're obviously old and they obviously are not his because his are like in a Hydra dumpster back in the 40s or whatever.
That's a good pickup.
Yeah.
That's a subtle touch, but
If I wasn't, I'm looking for certain things out of this. And that was one of them.
yeah, we're gonna be like a couple movies down the line. They're gonna reveal that, and every social media account you own is gonna be like, "I was fucking right."
I'm gonna tattoo about like I was right about the dog tag just tattooed across my throat.
I'm gonna hold you to that. That would be awesome.
I will.
Well, I know we're probably wrapping up here, and we definitely weren't able to touch on everything, but just a couple other quick highlights here from the end of the episode here was we saw Zemo get some vengeance with his butler being real creepy and killing a number of the Flagstaff super soldiers, or the Flag Smasher super soldiers. And then we see John Walker, go back in a short moment with Evil Elaine to get his official, black and red U.S. agent suit and the name. So a lot more to come from there. But I really just wanted to see, as we wrap up here, maybe final thoughts on where you think we're going from here with these characters. Do you think we get another season? Does it go straight into a movie? They changed the title at the very end of the show from Falcon and Winter Soldier to Captain America and Winter Soldier. So what's coming next?
I think we're gonna get the Thunderbolts, which I'm super amped on. Because I think we'll get the Thunderbolts if Suicide Squad does well.
Okay.
I think we'll get the Thunderbolts. But like, yeah, just they're taking him to the raft. Like they're taking I feel like they're just sending everybody to the raft, and then that's going to be where it all happens. I think we're going to get Captain America 4 because they already said that. I think I'm fingers crossed for a second season. If only for more long hair Winter Soldier flashbacks.
That would be sweet.
They did plant a lot of seeds, like for different directions they could go. Like perfect, pick up on the Thunderbolts possibly happening with Evil Elaine, like playing that Madam Hydra type role. Thunderbolt Ross is still out there. You actually alluded to it earlier, but Joaquin Torres, who takes up the mantle of Falcon after Sam becomes captain, and he was left. And like, I didn't notice this until Danny Ramirez, who I believe is the actor that plays him, tweeted this. It's his hand touching the broken wings.
Oh.
And he like tweeted this out, and I was like, oh my God, are they going in that direction where like they planted the seeds with Joaquin, and now they're going to have him pick up? And I think if they go that direction, TV show. But everything else, I think they're going to dip back into the movies. And I say that because I think Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are just not too big for a TV show. Obviously they're probably making movie style money with Disney and Marvel, but I feel like Marvel is playing with TV shows, but they really want to get back into cinema epics.
Well, and even if Anthony and Sebastian aren't too big for TV, I mean, Captain America is.
Yeah.
And while it worked here, I mean, he's really needs to be on the big screen, making that big screen money for the company, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
He's your star shortstop. You know, he is like the guy. And so I think they have to do a movie. Like, if you're going to commit this hard to Anthony Mackie as Captain America, like, you need to fully legitimize it with a big screen feature film around him and get him into the mix with the Avengers or whatever it may be. So I'm definitely excited for that. There's a ton more else that is coming out, and so we will definitely have to wait and see exactly how it unfolds. Probably won't have the time to go into all the announcements that came out today, but
God, so many.
Yeah, at time of recording, it was, Marvel Monday essentially. So we saw all of the next Phase 4 movies come out. Kyle and I will probably dip into that in a future episode, but movies are coming back. The world is returning to all is right, and we have a new Captain America, so it's a good time to be alive.
I'll say it is 21 pieces of content. It's 10 shows and 11 movies.
That's coming, yep.
That's wild.
Like, if you add in, like, Loki and the What If and the Guardians Holiday Special, She-Hulk, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and those are just the TV shows, and then get into the Eternals and all that. Yeah, it's 21 pieces of content.
So much content. Here for it.
Yeah, I think they announced through 2023 today, so that's how much it was. We're going to be stacked multiple times. It's all we're going to talk about, Kyle, on the podcast moving forward is going to be Marvel.
Can't wait to listen.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for finally coming on and joining us. It was a great
No, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to give another
I'm so honored.
quick plug on where everybody can check you out, and then we'll cash out here.
I tattoo in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can find more about me and my shop at ironghosttattoo.com, or we're on Instagram at ironghosttattoo. And my personal Instagram is Alex Tattoos NC as in North Carolina. And I do nerdy tattoos when I can on Chris usually.
All the tattoos.
But yeah, no, thank you guys so much. So honored that I got to talk about this stuff and not just scream at my coworkers about it while they try to ignore me. It's fine. But yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get new chapters of GeeK KetchUp every 2 weeks on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Be sure to follow the show on social media, and you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at GeeK KetchUp Podcast, or on Twitter and Instagram at GeeK KetchUp Pod. Links to all these accounts are in the show notes below and on our website, GeeKKetchUpPodcast.com. Stay saucy, you nerds.